Rupert Goold, welcome to Movies and Musicals and congratulations on Judy. I was thinking, coming over today, just all the different biopics we've had of late, and we had, say, Taron Egerton in Rocketman, who did his own singing, but then Bohemian Rhapsody, they used Freddie Mercury. I'm wondering, for you, did your leading lady have to sing? Was that a must?
It's so strange that, because there was a time, I remember, it seems like years ago, when we did think, oh, well, maybe we'll use Judy Garland's original recordings, and what are they going to be like? Or will we get someone to come and sing as Judy Garland and dub that on? So we must have had those conversations at some point. But I remember saying to Renee, I think it would be great if you could sing. And obviously you do sing. And she was sort of apprehensive about it, but did some work. And then she came over. And then it was as much, she sings brilliantly and she's got a lovely, lovely voice. But it was as much watching her sing that made me think, I just don't think we're going to recreate this if we don't have it really as her own voice. And I'm so glad that's the choice we made.
Yeah, what a leading lady you have. Everyone has adored her in this role. Tell me more about those conversations you had with her in terms of performance, because she doesn't just impersonate, she embodies Judy, doesn't she?
Yeah, I said, actually, I don't want an impression. I really don't want, I said that the last 10 minutes. I was lucky enough my background's more in theatre, and I've done a few shows that were about real people. And I sort of learned from that actually, however accurate you are, within about 10 minutes, that can become a bit sterile if you don't feel the actor's inner life going on as well. So although we did an enormous amount of work on the look and the movement qualities and the voice and the behaviour, watched all the stuff that we could find on YouTube and all the recordings, really the last phase, and actually the shoot, was very much more about stopping her doing too much of it, actually, and saying, I don't want to see Judy, I want to see you, Renee, because trust us that Judy's there now.
Okay. I want to talk about the screenplay, because it's very much inspired by a stage play, but then Tom Edge wrote the screenplay, sort of a mixture of fact and fiction. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, most of it is factual, but then there are a few imagined leaps as well.
Yeah, so people will know that going in. Judy Garland performed in my hometown in Dublin in 1951, and people still talk about it, and the Theatre Royal, that's sadly no longer there. Bringing us to 1968. The concert performances you show, sometimes she's on it, sometimes she's extraordinary, and then there are those horrible moments where the crowd are throwing their bread rolls at her. Is that as it was? Was it up and down for her?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I spoke to, I actually worked for the theatre producer Cameron Mackintosh a few years ago, and I know him a bit, and he had said he'd been there for the performances, and I was talking to him about it, and he said that when she began that run, there was a great excitement about this big star being in London, but then as word got out that you were either going to get an amazing night or a sort of car crash, it became a sort of spectator sport in a way, in a kind of awful gladiatorial sense, and she was off sometimes, she'd be incredibly late, she'd be very, very drunk, or mesmerisingly brilliant and hilarious and vocally pure, and that was the sort of the roulette game you played with going to watch her.
As you said, you were very much renowned as a theatre director, particularly for Shakespearean productions, and you mentioned the musical there, Oliver, in 2009 in the West End. It strikes me with this, Rupert, that you were able to sort of have the sadness of a Shakespearean tragedy, but you could do the musicals as well. Did you love those two scenarios?
Well, yeah, I think probably I put too much musical material into my Shakespeare and too much Shakespeare into my musicals, but people have asked me that. For me, it was more actually less about the work I've made on stage than sort of being in rehearsal rooms, actually, and having seen actually Michael Gambon, who's in the film. I did a show with him at the Gate in Dublin a few years ago.
What show was that?
It was No Man's Land, Pentaplay. Yeah. And we had a wonderful time there. But I remember being in Dublin, actually, and rehearsing once, and Michael had been sort of struggling a bit with his lines and not certain about doing it, and then he's just suddenly opened up on this incredible Pinter speech. It was like 5-minute aria. I've never been in the room. It was a sort of breathtaking inspiration, and I think it was actually sort of that experience of being very close to actors in a rehearsal room that made me sort of want to try and capture that intimacy on film as well, and the backstage stuff as well. I love directing. Of course, I loved all the show busy stuff, but actually being able to kind of communicate what it is like backstage, the pressure, the nerves, the sort of humdrum, and the glamour sometimes of the performer's life. That was, I suppose, sort of in my own life history.
We were delighted to see Irish actress Jessie Buckley in this film opposite Renee. She's super in it, and what an important role. But this is somebody who's still alive, so I presume with Rosalind, Judy's assistant, you were able to ask her literally how it was.
Yeah, absolutely. She was a mine of information about what went on with it, and had an interesting and sort of complex relation with Judy herself, which is sort of what we're reflecting in the film. But what I love about Jessie is she has this wonderful generosity of spirit. Rosalind, and the character of Rosalind, which is nothing like the real Rosalind Wilder, but the character in the movie is a little bit waspish and judgmental, and I guess there's a sort of, she goes on a conversion story, really, a sort of Damascene moment of realising that actually this difficult woman she's having to handle turns out to be a much bigger soul than she'd realised. And I adore Jessie's work anyway, and I've known her for years, but I just think she's magical in the film.
A final question for audiences watching Judy in 2019, 50th anniversary of Judy's death, 80th anniversary since The Wizard of Oz. As the credits roll, what do you want them to take away from this film?
That she was special, I suppose, that Judy was, she was a rebel, and she bucked the system at some times, and was challenging to the system, and didn't play by the rules, and embraced outsiders and people who struggled in parts of their lives but had something to offer. And I think, in these times, I think that's a great role model, more than the sort of perfect polished star. She was a sort of, because she had this unflinching honesty, and despite all the setbacks, she did keep coming back, and there's sort of hope there in amongst the sort of tragedy of her story.
Rupert, thank you very much.
Thank you.